So I've already made the list for the best phones under rupees 50,000. Watch the latest one if you haven't already. A link should pop up right now. But I also know that a lot of folks don't want to spend that kind of money and want to spend a little less. So this is a list of the best phones under rupees 30,000. Now, unlike the previous lists, wherever I've made one, this one's not going to be my specific list in order of preference of the top 5 phones that are available, primarily because there are way too many options under rupees 30,000 and the margin of difference between each one of these phones is a little too less. So what I've done instead is I have 7 phones in this list in no order of preference. You can pick whichever you feel is the best phone according to you. But what I'll do specifically is I'll highlight the pros and the cons of each phone and specifically also mention who should buy the phone, which will of course help you figure out if you fall in that category or not. Alright, so if you don't know me yet, I'm Arshad. You're watching Trakin Tech English. Let's begin. Now, the very first phone in my list is also the most inexpensive one. At rupees 25,000, the very first phone in my list is the Realme 9 Pro Plus. Now, this phone's biggest advantage is that it's got a compact design and a fantastic camera performance, especially thanks to the fact that you get the 15 megapixel Sony IMX766 sensor and OIS as well. Of course, OIS is not great for video recording, but it's fantastic for low light shots because the low light photography on the Realme 9 Pro Plus is absolutely good. Now, the other reason why I like the Realme 9 Pro Plus so much is because Realme has tried to create a premium experience with the O haptics, X-axis vibration motor. The kind of vibration feedback that you get is fantastic, and the stereo speaker setup with Dolby Atmos sounds really, really good. Plus, you get a 3.5mm headphone port as well. Realme UI also provides a super clean software experience, and you get 60-watt fast charging support too, which is very, very fast to top up your phone. But it's not like this phone doesn't have any compromises. In fact, all the phones in this list will have some compromise or the other that you will have to live with. The very first thing is the fact that the secondary and the tertiary cameras are 8+2MP, which means 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro, which I know that a lot of folks don't really appreciate. Also, the design itself could be polarizing because it's a little too flashy in my opinion, especially in the blue one, so that might not find some takers. Now, I don't know if I want to call this out as a compromise or a con per se. It's still a fast refresh rate, but it's not 120Hz refresh rate, it's 90Hz. But then again, I'm okay with it. You guys have to figure out if you're going to be okay with it. And it's also got the Dimensity 920 system on chip. Now, this is a very powerful chip, but it's not the most powerful one in this list for sure. However, my biggest concern with the phone is the fact that it's filled with a lot of bloatware. Apps Realme doesn't hold back. So if you've come this far and if you like the kind of content that we make, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever we put out an awesome new tech video. Also, if you like this specific video, it'll be nice if you guys gave us a thumbs up and maybe even comment below for the sake of the YouTube algorithm. So who should buy this? This is specifically for folks who want a premium experience in a mid-range package. However, the Realme 9 Pro Plus is definitely not for performance enthusiasts and gamers. Now, we cannot make a list of best mid-range phones under 30,000 and not have an iQOO phone. The next phone in the list is the iQOO Neo 6. Of course, the very first thing that stands out in the iQOO Neo 6 is that tried and tested Snapdragon 870 chip, which is a very powerful chip and is great for gaming performance. And apart from that, I really like the design of the iQOO Neo 6. It's a very good industrial design that's actually come a long way since it was introduced first in the iQOO 7. Also, iQOO phones generally have a great display. You get an AMOLED panel with 120Hz refresh rate and a touch sampling rate of 360Hz, which goes up to 1200Hz in instant touch sampling rate in certain games. And of course, you get HDR support in both Netflix and YouTube as well. To close off the pros of the iQOO Neo 6, you get great battery life and fantastic 80-watt charging speeds too. So coming to the cons, again, this is the same 8 megapixel plus 2 megapixel camera setup that we all don't like that much. Also, it's a bit of an issue on the iQOO Neo 6 primarily because the iQOO 7 had a better 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. But the biggest concern with the iQOO Neo 6 is FunTouch OS, which is not a very refined operating system. So who is the iQOO Neo 6 for? The iQOO Neo 6 is for somebody who wants a great hardware package with a good display, great battery life, fast charging speeds, a decent primary camera performance, and definitely great overall performance, especially when you're gaming. So I think the iQOO Neo 6 should definitely be in the priority list for gamers. However, the software experience is not the best, and I really hope that Vivo and iQOO can fix the FunTouch OS experience because then there is no beating them. Now coming to the third phone in the list, and this phone completely took me by surprise, and yes, I'm talking about the Redmi K50i. For the price of rupees 26,000, the kind of specs that are on offer is absolutely mad, especially because you get the Dimensity 8100 chip, which makes it actually the most affordable phone with that that chip, and it's a very, very powerful performer. The performance is so good that I actually think it's almost as good as the Snapdragon 888, in fact sometimes even better than it. Now of course the Redmi K50i comes with an LCD panel, but it's a very fast refresh rate LCD panel at 144Hz, and you get support for Dolby Vision in Netflix as well, which is something that seems to be a commonality across all Redmi and Xiaomi phones these days. The multimedia experience honestly is really good, also because you get a great set of stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos support, and you get a headphone jack with hi-res support. It's actually one of the best headphone jacks I've heard on a phone in a long time. Headphone jack is a rarity these days. This alone would be a reason why a lot of people would pick the Redmi K50i over other phones in this list. And you know what? I also got decent camera performance on the Redmi K50i, which was very surprising, honestly. I expected it to be bad, but it's not bad. Now, I'm highlighting this specific point for the Redmi K50i because, of course, a lot of phones in this price range do have a lot of 5G band support, including most of the, Indian 5G bands. But the Redmi K50i offers support for 12 5G bands, including the fact that it has already started trial runs on Jio's network, which is very, very good. Now coming to the cons, the biggest one of course has to be the fact that it doesn't have an AMOLED display and it has an LCD panel. Now that is something that you'll have to take a call for yourself whether you really want the AMOLED panel or not, but I'm okay with the kind of LCD quality that you get with the Redmi K50i. Now my concern has to be the fact that it's again got that 8 megapixel plus 2 megapixel setup for the secondary and tertiary cameras, and it's also bulky and not really a looker compared to the other phones in this price range. Furthermore, the Redmi K50i, also like the Realme 9 Pro Plus, comes with a lot of bloatware apps which I don't think should be pre-installed on phones above rupees 20,000, but that's really the case, so you can't really escape it. So who is the Redmi K50i for? Definitely gamers, because the best chip on a phone in this list is the Redmi K50i, and overall the other package is also really good, especially also for performance, also for multimedia enthusiasts. This is a great phone because of that really good headphone jack that you get with it. I actually enjoyed music on my Moondrop Choose when I was testing them out. So yeah, so the Redmi K50i is for multimedia and gaming enthusiasts. If you want a better camera performance, there are other phones in this list that can do better. Now coming to the next phone in this list, and that is the Redmi K50i's brother, sibling. It's the Poco F4. Now the Poco F4 is also a very good phone, almost equally as good as the Redmi K50i. What you get is a good flat-sided design. The design of the Poco F4 is definitely better than the Redmi K50i. Fight me in the comments. Now the Poco F4's other big advantage is the fact that it comes with an AMOLED 120Hz panel instead of LCD. That is something that a lot of folks will appreciate, and it comes with Dolby Vision support as well. So yeah, so the basics are taken care of. The multimedia experience, because you've got that AMOLED panel, is bound to be good, especially when you're watching videos. And of course, you've got a set of stereo speakers as well. Not as good as a Redmi K50i, but they work really well. And you also get a 3.5mm dongle in the box. So if you're going to be missing out on a headphone jack, that's something that you don't need to worry because Poco takes care of it in the box itself. And it goes without saying, the Poco F4 also has great performance thanks to Snapdragon 870, a chip that was also present in the iQOO Neo 6. But then again, the Redmi K50i has Dimensity 8100, which is better than the 870. However, what is better on the Poco is Poco's version of MIUI, because it doesn't offer too many bloatware apps, and there are certain features that I actually appreciate more on the Poco compared to vanilla MIUI. So what are the cons? What are the compromises? The secondary and the tertiary camera, 8 plus 2 MP once again. Also, the Poco F4's camera performance is not something that I enjoyed a lot. The low light performance especially is not that great. Now talking about cameras itself, in the design of the Poco F4, the camera protrudes a lot from the rear, and therefore the table wobble is a bit too much. Now who should pick the Poco F4? Such a difficult question to answer, primarily because the Redmi K50i is almost better than the Poco F4 in many aspects. But then again, I know that a lot of folks actually crave for an AMOLED panel. That's something that a lot of folks really like, especially folks who buy phones online. And apart from that, you also get a slightly more refined design with that glass back. But you know what, if you ask me, I'm inching towards the Redmi K50i. Again, because it's got great camera performance and great overall performance as well, which is better than the Poco F4. Now, the next phone in this list is the only one that wasn't launched this year. It's the Samsung Galaxy A52s. Now, this phone is fantastic when you talk about the feature set that it offers in this price range. The price has gone down to under 30,000 and you get a laundry list of features that you'll find really, really premium. Firstly, you get a 778G processor, which is good enough, and you get a 120Hz AMOLED panel with 800 nits of peak brightness brightness, which is good enough. And of course, it's a Samsung panel, so it's very, very well tuned. But that camera setup, it's superb. You've got a 64 megapixel primary camera, you've got a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 5 megapixel dedicated macro camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. The kind of pictures that you'll get with the A52s are fantastic and kind of better than the other phones in this price range. Also, the main camera has OIS, you get 12 5G band support, and you get IP67 rating. That's a feature that's not available on any phone in this price range. Oh, wait a second, you thought the feature list was over? You get support for micro SD card as well. Again, another feature that's not available on any phone in this price range. So you must be wondering, Eshad, what about the software support because it's an older phone? Well, the A52s will come with 3 years of software updates, which will match with the 2 years when you buy it this year with the other phones that are in this list. Now, what's the problem with the A52s? There are two problems. One, it's a plastic bag and it looks decidedly plastic, and slower charging speeds. 25 watts doesn't cut it in 2022. So who should buy, the Samsung Galaxy A52s? Somebody who doesn't want the best performance, because of course there are other phones that offer great performance, but somebody who values, the brand value of Samsung and the kind of feature set that you get with this phone. Because if you ask me, it's probably one of the most premium phones in this price class. There's just a lot to like about the Galaxy A52s, and sort of comes as an easy recommendation for me, whenever somebody looks for a phone under rupees 30,000. Alright, the next phone in my list is for folks who like super thin and super light phones, and that is the Motorola Edge 30. So of course, the first pro of the Moto Edge 30 is that it's super thin and super light. In fact, Moto calls it the thinnest 5G phone in the world. Now, while thinness is definitely something that a lot of people will appreciate, I also do like the fact that you get stereo speakers with it, and with Dolby Atmos, no less, and it sounds really decent too. Plus, you've got an AMOLED panel, which is of course available on all the phones in this list except for the Redmi, and you've got Redmi's fastest 144Hz refresh rate as well, merging both the worlds. And over and above that, you got great touch sampling rate and HDR support as well. Also, one very interesting thing about the Moto Edge 30 is the fact that you get a very pragmatic camera setup, where you get a 50 megapixel plus 50 megapixel setup, where it's a primary camera and an ultra wide, and the ultra wide doubles up as a macro camera as well. And of course, there's a 2 megapixel depth camera, which nobody really cares about. Now, nice camera setup and all is good, but is the camera performance good? Of all the Moto phones that I've actually tested this year, the Motorola Edge 30 has a decent camera performance. Now, as for the system on chip, you get a Snapdragon 778G Plus inside the Motorola Edge 30, which is not the best, but it's very, very good. And of course, for fans of stock Android and clean software experiences with Motorola's really cool extra features that you get, like, the chop to torch and twist to open the camera, all of that is available on the Moto Edge 30. So what's the problem with the Moto Edge 30? You won't get the kind of fantastic battery life that you can get from some other phones in this price range, because it's a smaller battery, but still, for the stock Android experience, for the fact that it's got stock Android inside, you do get decent battery for the battery size that it offers. And apart from that, there's only 33 watt fast charging, which I think is good enough, but a lot of folks would want that 60 watt, 80 watt fast charging, so that's not available on the Moto Edge 30. Now, when I look at the Moto Edge 30, it doesn't compromise too much on a lot of the features. In fact, it offers you great performance, a good set of cameras, and of course, stock Android as well. Plus, it is also thin and very, very light, so it makes it a very unique phone, one that I think a lot of folks will appreciate. So the final phone in my list is the OnePlus Nord 2T. Now, this phone comes with a Dimensity 1300 chip, which is a decent chip for daily performance, of course, and fairly good for gaming as well, but there's one problem with it, which I'll come to in the cons. What I do like about the Nord 2T is that it's got that Sony IMX766 sensor with optical image stabilization, and the camera performance is actually good in daylight and low light too. Apart from that, one of the reasons why I'm recommending OnePlus Nord 2T is the software experience with Oxygen OS is very fluid, smooth, and refined. It's not as good looking as before, but it still continues to be fast and fluid, which is something that I really appreciate about OnePlus phones even today. And you get 80 watt fast charging speeds as well, similar to the iQOO Neo 6. Now, coming to the cons, of course, the secondary and the tertiary cameras are 8+2, and the Dimensity 1300 inside the OnePlus Nord 2T throttles a lot. So alright, so who is this for? Purely, I am recommending this phone purely and purely for OnePlus fans and somebody who wants a OnePlus phone specifically. There are a lot of them, even today. And I know that a lot of them won't even care about the performance problems with the OnePlus Nord 2T. They just go ahead and buy the phone. I know that a lot of people have already bought it. And I'm not wholeheartedly recommending this, to be entirely honest. It's not the favorite phone in my list. But it's there again, like I mentioned, for the OnePlus fans. Alright, so that was my complete list of the best phones under rupees 30,000. It's got 7 phones, and it was tough to pick out the best ones. There are a lot of other phones if you like anything specific. And you know what happens is that during sales, a lot of phones go for under rupees 30,000 as well, which are available for about rupees 30,000. So yeah, so that's gonna be a problem as well. But for now, if you're looking at a specific list, this should definitely help you out. So definitely share this video with your friends and family who are looking for such a list. Until next time, this is Ashad signing off. Keep tracking and stay safe.